Jade, owner and principal planner of Joyful Events by Jade, and this is The Cookie Table. This is a podcast all about love, marriage, relationships, and the wedding industry, wedding news. Perfect for anyone that is getting married, is married, a wedding vendor, or someone that just loves weddings. Grab your favorite cookie from The Cookie Table, pour yourself a glass of Chardonnay, and let's get into it. Kaitlyn, Caramela, owner and head designer, Steel City Florals. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. It's been a while.
Yes, it has. I was saying, I can't remember even, I think the last time we did the one wedding we did together was, I think, in 2020, 2021. So it's been
Yes, time flies. It's just crazy to think how time flies, because I could still remember that wedding.
I know, me too. I love that.
At Willowbrook.
Exactly. Well, you stuck out as a planner to me, and I'm not just saying that because I'm on your podcast, but even... Yeah, just because that was, still really, a new time in my business. Yeah. So I had not worked with a lot of weddings that had planners, and at that, planners that did stuff.
Yes, yes. I was going to say, well, while we're talking, and since you brought it up, Kaitlyn, what were the positives? What were the positives of why I stuck up? That means a lot hearing that.
There's always some sort of hang up or some logistical issue that happens on wedding day, regardless of, as smooth as it looks. And I remember just a couple random things just being like, crap, I don't know what to do. And I just went right over to you and you were like, okay, we got this. And you immediately came and helped. So I was like, this is someone that I could definitely work with again, that I could rely on and not just see them sitting kind of in the corner. Yes. Yeah. Doing nothing. And I hate how much I hear that. I hear that a lot, but that means a lot to me. So thank you for saying that. No, I really enjoyed my time because I remember specifically that hanging installation I had to do above the sweetheart table. Yes. And I was like, what the hell am I supposed to hang this on? Because it was just two wooden beams. I found a little nail in each side and, we were able to rig it up or whatever. But that specifically is what I remember being so stressed out about and being like, hey, there's another problem I need your help with. You crushed it. You crushed it. That was such a good wedding. Some beautiful pictures from that wedding, too. Pretty. It was such a nice day. And what stands out with that day working with you, what I remember, too, is it was windy. So it was a beautiful October day. And that, everyone always at some point, will have a easel that they want to put outside. And it's okay. It happens pretty frequently. But we finagled the easel and the welcome sign and the way you put the flowers, it looked like it was meant to be that way. I remember it was so nice. See, that happens literally almost every wedding, so that didn't even stick out to me. But the easels, such a pain. Almost everyone has them. I've learned to deal with them, but truly, the logistics of getting a beautiful floral arrangement onto this much of an easel while not covering the sign, it's fun. It's always great. It's tough to do, but you crushed it. You do it. We get it done, and I have been dying to have a florist on the podcast, so I'm so grateful to have you. I'm very glad it's me. Hell yeah. You're a Patel girl. Yes. Girly. Yep. This is one of my favorites. I love the taste of anise, so that was the one main thing I like about them. But as I was thinking about them too, I come from an Italian Pittsburgh family. This is a total cookie staple in the Italian Pittsburgh world. Very. And I remember growing up just going over to my grandparents around Christmas, and she would make oh my gosh, probably 20 different types of cookies, but pizzelles specifically. I remember going over after school and she would have the hot press, and we would have, the little balls of dough. We had to keep them in the fridge until they were ready to be pressed because they had to stay cool for them to keep their shape. And I remember, pressing it with the all the cool little patterns on it. Yeah. And we would, just have Christmas music playing and be making the cookies. So it was always a fun time. That's special. My family also has their own little wine concoction. Okay. This is kind of funny. When I was little, I told people they made their own wine, which totally makes sense. A lot of people do that. Yeah. My family just gets 2 different bottles of wine and mixes them together. What kind? Port and Riunite. Okay. So it's a red wine, but I really feel white wine pairs way better with the pizzelle cookies. So that's kind of what I was thinking. So I actually, I'll be totally honest, I did look it up.
and it said like a Prosecco or a sparkling wine. And I almost did that, but I was just like, oh, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I could sit here for an hour and drink like a glass of champagne. So that was just me personally. So thank you for being okay with the white wine paired nicely with some white here.
I love it.
What makes these cookies extra special? And I haven't done this yet, but I had a wedding on Saturday. A fellow wedding community friend of ours.
Yes.
Another florist, Holly Hannah, who we love very much. Holly, these are straight from her cookie table.
I was so excited to hear that. Holly is one of my really good friends in the floral wedding industry. We actually connected last year, probably around this time. I reached out to her through just, again, mutual friends and having, common people in the industry. Yeah. And I was like, hey, we should go get coffee and just, like, talk and get to know each other. Because I get to meet a lot of people in the wedding world, but often not a lot of times florists, because we're not both at the same, venue. So we met for coffee, and I found out we went to the same horticulture school, and we had, just like a lot of kind of like intertwining things. Both of us are kind of like self-starters with our businesses, and she ended up helping me with one of my biggest weddings I booked last year.
It's awesome.
So it was really cool to be able to collaborate with her artistically as well, and she was a huge help with that wedding. So it's really nice to have a friend in the industry, and it was really cool to get to see her photos and her wedding over the weekend. So it is extra special that we have these from her cookie table. Thank you, Holly.
Yeah, thank you, Holly, which makes it super cool. But that's where community over competition helps. That's really great that she helped you on a wedding. I love that. That's so cool. Let's talk about you, Kaitlyn. Let's talk about Steel City Florals, your inspiration of starting a business, getting into flowers. Tell me it all.
Okay, so I think actually we might have started the same year. Did you start in 2018?
I did.
Okay, me too. So our 7th year, right, in business now?
We're doing it.
Yeah, so it's been a lot, and things have changed a lot over the years. Truly, when I started this, I wasn't even planning on it being a full-scale business. It really was kind of more so like a creative outlet hobby thing. I started it with a business partner. Now I'm just by myself.
Okay.
It's been a lot of different things have happened. I feel like I've really grown into myself, especially over the past couple years, taking the business over fully. Starting to get, really serious. I have some like really fun things coming up with the business. So, really starting to step into my own with, my niche and what I feel like Steel City Florals represents and is. And, I'm really excited to see, where it goes in the future. But for right now, I think, we specifically do weddings and events. So we're not the typical floral shop that you're used to.
So you don't have like a storefront.
Yes, so that's a big difference with us, I would say. And, there are a lot more florists now coming up with like the, home studio type of vibe. But that was really something I specifically made a point when I started this business. Like, it wasn't a goal for me to end up having a shop. I still don't want a brick and mortar store. There's a lot that goes into it, but like the main thing I think is just having to be like, I really truly enjoy my free time and having time to do what I love.
100%. And
to have to be at a desk or, sit there, answer phones and like wait for a business to come in. That's just like not my thing. Also, I mean, just thinking about florals too, like the type of events and weddings that I take on, I really try to take things on that push me artistically. I can have fun with, color palettes, textures, fun couples, fun stories. And with, the typical everyday flower shop, I feel like it is a little bit more distant from the type of vibe that I'm going for.
And that's great that you know that. And, don't push yourself into something that you don't want to do.
Right, just because that's, like, supposed to be the path.
It's not for you. It doesn't have to be for you.
I very much don't see myself going that way.
Your website says Pittsburgh's alt florist.
Yes.
Tell me about that. Explain that.
Yeah, that's something new that I'm kind of putting as a little bit as a tagline. But truly, I've kind of been embracing that the whole time, even just saying like the way that I started so very non-traditionally. The florist world, especially, I feel like in Pittsburgh, there's a lot of businesses that have been family owned, have been run for years and years and years, passed down generation to generation, or, you know, they bought a name and it's been in the community for a while. Yeah. I started Steel City Florals from nothing. I started with $5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there was really nothing behind it. So it took a while to kind of, you know, build up my portfolio, all of that kind of stuff. But starting from a blank slate like that, it really gave me the opportunity to think about, what do I want to do with this? And what is the exact direction I want to go in? Because I had actually worked in the floral world prior to starting Steel City Florals. So I worked for a mom and pop shop, a shop that has been passed down generation to generation. And it was really cool though, because she did all different types of florals. So she had a wedding sector and events, then she had the funerals and also like day of flowers. And I got to see kind of all those different sides. And also learn just like the basic knowledge of like learning how to clean buckets, learning how to properly prep florals, learning the different names of the flowers. A lot of stuff. Yeah, exactly. A lot of that stuff I can credit to having that first job.
It's great.
Where I learned that like basic work, and also was able to kind of see all the different parts of being a florist.
There you go.
So I really did, as I was working for this florist, I really gravitated towards weddings and events, because I did see like the types of florals that people were using were kind of more so what I gravitated towards. The designs were a little bit more dynamic and a little more like you could do the installations and things that just like push design boundaries a little bit. Really loved that. But I definitely noticed too, like as I was, you know, working for that florist and just seeing like, you know, social media was really starting to pop off at this time, like this 2015, 2016. And really starting to see, you know, different florists from all over the country. And even just in Pittsburgh. And I just kind of noticed like the same aesthetic, the same
cookie cutter.
Exactly. But I don't know, even just thinking about florals in general, I feel like a lot of people have this like idea in their head of like soft and delicate and you know, girly, and you know, and while florals absolutely can be that, there is a whole nother side to them. And if you ask any florist, they will tell you the floral industry is not for the faint of heart. It is especially the wedding industry, it is a hardworking, fast-paced, serious environment. And it's always hilarious to, you know, have these people come up and be like, oh, I wish I could just play with flowers, you know, for a job all day. And I'm like, I wish like that's like probably 20% of it. Right. The rest of it is like hauling, you know, a bunch of different boxes and buckets and just like, cleaning buckets, processing flowers, picking them up, the grunt work of it. And I don't think people, you know, see that side. Oh, no,
they never do. They never do. Do you also include any candles or rentals that you would have to therefore clean the glass?
Yes, absolutely. And that has been such a pain point for me.
That's tough.
Because, oh my gosh, I don't want to spend my time chipping wax off of glass over and over again. I actually did just make a little investment into Lucid candles.
Okay, what are those? Explain.
They are kind of like an oil lamp, but in a taper candle.
Oh.
It's very cool.
Okay.
I only got there's like 20 ivory taper candles that I got, and they give you a box of their fluid, and it's basically a wick that goes down. You fill it with the fluid. It looks exactly like a regular taper candle. You light it like a taper candle, but it doesn't melt, and it just stays lit the whole time. Yeah, it's actually unbelievable. I actually did a little test on my Instagram. Yeah.
That is brilliant.
As a planner, I'm sure you know what a game changer that is, because
that's huge.
The wax, even like logistically at the wedding, the wax dripping onto the tablecloth, even if there's a hurricane over it, it still happens. It still
drips, yeah. Oh my God.
So this is like a little bit of a solution, but of course, again, it's very expensive, so it's more of an investment. But because, again, it's such a pain point to have to spend all of that time cleaning wax, and, you know, you have to buy the candles over and over again and everything. Like, it might end up weighing out, you know, in the end.
For sure, yes. Someone that wants a very candle-heavy tablescape, and there's like... I mean, sometimes so many, but even if it's like 8 to 15 candles per table, you have 20 tables.
Yeah.
And then you're cleaning all of that glass.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is even cleaning up at the end of the night, like blowing the candles out, then you have to collect all the glass, but you have to wait until the glass like cools down a little bit. Yeah. And then you know, you're weaving in and out of people. Yeah. So I'm hoping this might be like a little bit of
an alleviation.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah,
good for you.
Candles are included in, you know, my services. Nice. When you book a full service wedding with me, you have all my rental items. So I have a bunch of like vases, compotes,
awesome.
Hard goods for like, you know, installation setups and all that stuff.
Very cool. And because of that, you do then come back at the end of the night or the next day to get it all. So that's all included as well.
Exactly. Yep.
Crushing it. Which I love that as a wedding planner, that I know my florist is going to come back the end of the night and help me.
And a lot of times it was me that would come back. So thankfully lately I have been getting other people to do breakdowns for me.
Nice.
But every once in a while I will still go back, and I kind of like going back every once in a while for breakdown. It's fun.
See how the day went, huh?
Right.
The candle with the special oil and the wax, kind of, you know, you can reuse it. So that kind of brings me to sustainability. So we're in 2025 now. I think a lot is changing within the floral industry of how do we make this more sustainable. So I guess kind of explain what hasn't been sustainable for those that maybe are listening and don't understand or know, and what you are doing as a florist to make things more sustainable.
So in general, I would say the floral industry is not a sustainable industry. Yeah. Even when you are trying your hardest to compost your materials, do, you know, foam free, whatever, you know, that is, it's still very unsustainable, and there's a lot that goes into that. So one of the first things is getting the flowers to you. So the cost of the transportation of that, you're, you know, having flowers shipped from overseas, or even just, you know, from Mexico, South America, Canada to Miami. So that's, you know, a carbon footprint with the jet fuel going from one place to the next. And then from Miami, that's like the processing center for all the florals that come into, you know, the United States from South America. Okay. So then those get transported to our different wholesalers, whether that be, again, by plane, you know, because flowers also don't last a long time either. So this isn't like it can be like a couple weeks process. Yeah. These, the shipping has to happen usually overnight. Yeah. So depending expensive. On the flower, which again is expensive. And even if it isn't overnight, if it's a truck going up, you know, you still have the carbon footprint of the truck going up there. And it's not just a regular truck, it's an air-conditioned truck, because the flowers would die if they weren't in air-conditioned. So that's another thing you have to think about. Okay. So, you know, going into the costs of things too, you know, you're already paying for the people who farm the flowers. Yep. Then you're paying for the people who transport the flowers at the distribution center. Then you're paying for them to go to the wholesaler. The wholesaler is also paying for employees and to, you know, put them in buckets of water, and they have a place. So, you know, we thankfully have a wholesaler here in Pittsburgh. We have a couple, but the one that I often go to is BW Wholesale. Okay, yeah. So you might have heard of them. They're right in the Strip District. They're family owned, and they're just wonderful, incredible people. They have helped me so much with my business, and I cannot give them enough thanks and flowers. Seriously. Yeah, that's awesome. Because, they are just incredible. So, they'll get their flowers there. Of course, they have a big team of people. They have their sales reps. And another thing going into sustainability is those flowers are wrapped in plastic. So each bunch of flowers, you have a bunch wrapped in plastic, and there's really not much you can do as a florist for like the wholesale perspective. Yeah. But there's another end of it where you can also, buy locally. Yep. So, we have the costs of the transportation. We have the unsustainability of the actual product and the way that it's wrapped. And then we have this other end of it where, we have this movement with this whole locally grown. Yeah. It's a little hard for us, though, because we're, in Pittsburgh. So there's a very short window of when all these, beautiful flowers can be available. Thankfully, it kind of coincides a little bit with wedding season. Yeah. But there is, I'm sure at this point, there's weddings throughout the whole year now. Right. And you can't just always get locally grown flowers. And even if you can get locally grown flowers, it's not to the amount that you can get them wholesale. Like, these are just, every day, couple different people working on like a little, patch of land. Right. And it's not, it's not a big operation. Right. So you can't order like dozens and dozens of something that you want. Yes. So, that's what we try to do. We try to order as locally as possible. I try to plant some stuff when I can in my backyard.
Great. That's awesome.
I had mentioned, too, like, being foam-free. Yeah. So I don't claim to be completely foam-free. Yeah. Because foremost, like, the integrity of the design, I feel like, is the most important in weddings for someone's wedding. Like, absolutely. Keeping them, maintained and looking good. But, of course, like, any time that I can feasibly do the foam free or like just use chicken fencing, yes, I'm absolutely doing it. And just in general too, I feel like a big part of sustainability for me also is just like the way that I run my business, not having a brick and mortar shop. Yes. And
you don't have that overhead.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's a big component as to, again, why I don't do that. And I feel like that all lends to that like sustainability aspect. Yeah. But as you were saying, it's 2025 now. I feel like sustainability it's almost required. Doing your part is required in the industry. So I feel like, especially with my little pivot here, kind of with my business that I'll be doing in the next year or so, not that I'm taking a focus away from sustainability. Yeah. It's always going to be a part of my business, and that's always going to be something that's very important to me. But I feel like there's more interesting parts of me that I can put forth, and people will see that and then also know they're getting a sustainable florist along with that. Yeah.
So you touched on a lot of really great points. So kind of talking about, let's kind of touch on the glass a little bit. And obviously we already talked about the rentals. So, I have had multiple couples that they'll see a quote come back for all the glass rentals and they're like, oh my God, I could just buy these myself or get them resale. And it's like, well, you have to clean them, which is you're the one transporting them. You're the one coming back. You're paying a team to come back and take them down at the end of the night.
Who's setting them up?
Who's setting them up? All of that goes into these costs that people see just a number and they're just like, oh, that's not worth it for me. But for all the couples that think the answer is to just go on Amazon and buy a new set, that to me is very wasteful.
Yeah, again, very unsustainable, because then you're going to see it on Facebook Marketplace in the next week after the wedding.
Yeah, and then someone else is buying more, and then maybe you rebuy those, but then another wedding needs to buy more, and it's just like it's never ending of this buying of this glass.
Exactly.
Or then it sits in your basement because you can't resell it, or you forget, or you don't care to go through that process of reselling, and that could be a pain in the ass. So it's like it makes so much sense to get them from someone who already has them, right? And then you're not just rebuying all this glass.
Us too, like it makes more sense with us to have our own products so that we know, like we've worked with them before. We know how many times that I've had where like a bride has wanted to provide the bases of the candles, but then we need to provide the hurricanes, but then the hurricanes get there and it doesn't fit. And it's like, if you would have just did my hurricane vases, I would have known that they would fit.
Yeah.
Same with the bud vases. Like, if I have to go there and design on site, that takes more time rather than if I could do it at my shop and then like just bring them.
100%. And this is all going not only about sustainability, but going into the understanding for couples. Why do flowers, quote unquote, cost so much? So this is all within that same conversation, honestly. And, you know, we're in Pittsburgh, like you said. So for couples that want their perfect arrangement in January or whatever time of year in Pittsburgh, or even if it is October, Pittsburgh can only give so much.
Right. It's you have to. You have to outsource it. And then by the time, I mean, it goes through, you mentioned how many channels until it even gets to you. Right. So that is a massive corporation, like into these costs. So many people are involved.
So many.
In the behind the scenes of like what it takes to make just one arrangement.
Yeah, which is, I mean, insane.
It's very interesting. It's like kind of beautiful and also like scary.
Yes, I was going to say it's kind of amazing, but holy shit. Yeah. It's kind of fucking wild. But it makes so much sense why flowers cost the way they cost. So I think too, more couples, I'm trying to guide more people into donating their flowers at the end of the night as well, right? Like, that's a good thing, right?
Oh my gosh, that's another thing, like going into sustainability. Another thing that happens is at the end of the event or the end of a wedding, you know, depending on the venue rules and the other people you're working with, I've had weddings where I've had to throw thousands of dollars of flowers away because maybe the couple and all their guests were from out of town. No one could take them. The venue couldn't take them, and like I couldn't take them because I just came back in my Honda HRV. So I had to like throw them out in the dumpster, and it just kills me. But I really do try to like make it a plan with my couples, and especially if they have a planner, like get them involved in, hey, what's going to happen afterwards. Scent with Love, I can't plug them enough. They're such a great company. They're volunteer based though, so it is you know, if someone is able to come at the end of the night through their volunteers, they'll have someone come, but again, they're only in, you know, their own personal vehicle, so they can only take so much. I've also suggested to couples giving away to guests if it is, you know, more of a local crowd. Because, you know, a lot of the older people would love to take a flower arrangement home, and I've even caught people like at the end of the night trying to like, you know, steal flowers out of vases.
It's like, no,
I'm like,
take
please. So I really suggest having some sort of plan with the florals before the day of.
I completely agree. I am one of those people that will happily take some flowers home and put them on my table or put them outside. Like, that's
another thing. I'll try to give them away to all the vendors too. I can't keep them in my house, unfortunately, because I have 4 cats that will just like go crazy on them. But you know, I try to, as much as possible, keep from throwing them away.
So kind of continuing to go into why flowers cost so much, how many hours would you say you put into making the average like wedding day arrangements? All of the bouquets, all of the centerpieces, like.
Okay, so I'll put it. I have a wedding this weekend. Actually, my first like full service one of the year. It's at the Energy Innovation Center.
That's where I got married.
Oh, cool.
Love it.
I love that.
Yeah, it's fun.
So it's like a normal sized wedding, I would say. Like I think like around maybe 16 tables, 130 guests or so. And I will start the whole like process of designing on Wednesday. So I pick up all my flowers on Wednesday. Of course, like a couple months before this, I've already placed the order for the flowers, went through, you know, the different designs with the clients and, you know, what I plan to order. And then we'll place my order, go there Wednesday, pick everything up. Wednesday, I usually spend the whole day processing all the flowers. So that will be, like, I usually will get the flowers maybe like 10 a.m. and then be done processing everything by like 4 that day. And I'll have maybe my, you know, my assistant Deanna with me. So 2 people processing, you know, a whole wedding's worth of flowers. It takes a while, but it's worth doing ahead of time because it needs to get done regardless. And if you do it while you're designing, you get in a flow while you're designing, so it's hard to so processing the flowers on Wednesday, and then Wednesday, I usually will take the time too to get all the glassware and like the rental items put together.
Yeah.
And then Thursday morning, or honestly Thursday all day, is pretty much just designing.
Okay.
Thursday is more focused on like the larger pieces, so like the center pieces and the things that are more like if I put them in foam or something, like a vase that I can refill with water because I know that that's going to last a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So I'll do those then. And then Friday, like the day, say this is, you know, the Saturday wedding. Friday, I'll do all the personals. So that would be the things more so like that are going to be out of water, that are going to not last as long.
Yep.
And also like that I want to look the best.
Yeah.
So personals will happen on Friday, as well as any other designing that needs to happen. And then, you know, that will be another probably like 7 or 8 hours of designing. And then, you know, the day of the wedding, get up early, make sure everything's packed, go over the list of everything. If I need to grab a U-Haul, I will. But a lot of times we can fit everything in me and Deanna's cars. And, you know, go to the venue. It probably takes us, you know, depending on how big the setup is, but 3 to 4 hours at the venue to get everything together. And then, you know, go back at the end of the night and break everything down. And then the afterwards part of it, cleaning all the vases, cleaning all the buckets. Yeah. Putting everything back. It's
and then you do it all over again.
Exactly. Then it's next week and we do it again.
Yeah.
And then in that time too, we're, you know, having consultations with like clients for next year and answering emails and posting on social media, and it's
planning with your couples this year.
I truly do love it.
I know, right? We love it. I promise.
It like truly fuels me. Like I honestly do love it.
Yeah, but it's a lot of hours, and this is what is going into, you know, when
and that's what the cost. That's what's behind the cost is, you know, all the labor.
There's a lot of labor to make these stunning pieces. So
absolutely,
it's something that needs to, you know, just be thought about more on the couple's end. I think just a little bit more of an understanding, and that's not saying that you need to have a large floral budget by any means. It's just saying that, like, don't be so shocked when you see a quote or like, you know, Pinterest will show you all these beautiful things. And then you get a quote back and it's $20,000. And it's like, well, you had multiple installs, hanging installations.
Like, you want the top of the end flowers. You want it to look, that's, I mean, that's what it is.
It all adds up. So we talked about outsourced flowers, obviously getting them somewhere else. This is, you know, this is not a political podcast. I'm never going to talk about things as never going to talk about, you know, political
I'll
things.
go there.
I'll let Kaitlyn do that. But, you know, and forgive me, I haven't looked into the status of this potential new executive order.
The tariffs.
Yes, and where it's at. But our current presidential administration has put into motion new tariffs on imported goods. So that means that we are taxed higher on it. And it's supposed to promote buying within the United States, right?
Right.
We just talked about that's not possible in the floral.
The logistics of it.
Logistics. If you want a beautiful wedding day in Pittsburgh, it's going to take, you know, needing flowers somewhere else. Yeah. So that's not going to go away.
Right.
Getting flowers from outside of the United States.
Exactly.
Again, I haven't checked on where this order is in the process of getting fully approved. I don't know.
Yeah.
What will that do to the floral industry and the wedding industry?
So it's going to affect it.
Yeah.
Point blank. Like there's no conspiracy theory. It's going to affect it. We get a lot of our wholesale product from other countries. Yeah. Those main countries include South America and Canada. So one of the tariffs is going to be put on Canada and the other on Mexico. Thankfully, the one for Mexico doesn't affect us too much. We don't get much product from there. Okay. But if there were to be a tariff on South America, that would be a huge problem because that's almost like 70% of the stuff that we get in. So South America, we get a lot of like our roses from South America, a lot of our greenery. And then from Canada, we get a lot of our more like ornate flowers, so like our ranunculus, our tulips, our snapdragons, things that are very highly requested. And yeah, that is, I would say about 20% of our product comes from Canada wholesale.
Okay. Yeah.
So, that's going to affect, I think the tariff is 25%. So it'll be a 25% increase. And it's going to be kind of hard to navigate that because right now, I'm quoting people for next year's flowers when this tariff could very well be put in place. And I'm like, how am I supposed to navigate that as a florist, and a business owner?
Yeah.
With, you want a certain vision, but also if those prices are going to go up, am I just going to eat those costs, or how do I reflect that and also be transparent with my couple? It honestly sucks.
Yeah, that's a
it's
shame.
It's not necessary.
Yeah, it's sad. That's a shame. And that is hard to put that on. Well, one, you should never eat that cost, right? As a business owner, but then it's falling back on the couple, which equally sucks. It's not fair to them and their wedding day. So, when your wedding flowers go up, now mainly why it's such a jump potentially. But you're right. The scariest thing I think is not knowing when, and you're already preparing.
So it was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
A month or so ago, and that's what we were all worried, of course, because of Valentine's Day,
right?
But they pushed it back, and honestly, at this point, I'm also not sure where it's at. It's not in effect right now.
Yeah.
But I just got back from my wholesaler before I was here, and I was just talking about it, and we went over the facts, and we were like, this is what would happen.
Yeah. So do you then put something in your contract that they should initial saying that we are in limbo with new tariffs? This could go up 25%. What do you do?
Exactly. But it hasn't been done before, I don't think.
Right.
So how do you approach that?
Mm-hmm. How do you approach it? And then will it scare people off?
Exactly.
But then, to eat that big percentage is also hurtful for a business. So
very hard to navigate.
Again, don't care who you voted for, but this is what's happening. This is what is happening in our country, and it's affecting your wedding.
Cheers.
Cheers to that. Cheers to that. That's a shame. That's a shame.
It is.
So, yeah, when you're...
So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, we live in Pittsburgh, so we can only do so much, and that's what I think people just don't fully understand either. But
right, and honestly, shout out to the local growers. Seriously, Pittsburgh Flower Exchange, probably from May till, I don't know, maybe even sooner, April till almost November. We can get some stuff through them, and it's a whole collective of a bunch of different growers through Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. And I have really nice relationships with a lot of those growers, so I just can't shout them out enough. Thank you guys for awesome. The work that you put in, and the offering of different varieties, and always being up on putting new interesting things out there. So thanks to them.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's backtrack a little bit to, we mentioned how many hours can I go into a wedding day. Slightly touched on larger installations. So I've seen you doing some beautiful big installs, just obsessed.
Thank you.
And I just wish, oh my God, speaking of money, I wish they could all afford it.
I agree. I agree.
It's just beautiful. But when it comes to doing these larger installations, is it required or preferred for couples to have venue access the day before?
Yeah. Obviously, it's preferred.
Yeah.
Required, that's something that I'd love to talk to the venues a little bit more about.
Let's talk about it.
This is a call out to the venues right now.
Yeah.
That if you are charging certain prices and you want to be associated with a certain, not so much aesthetic, but a certain look. I don't know, I guess.
Yeah. Standard.
It requires time to make it happen.
Yeah.
And so just take, for example, last year, the biggest wedding that I've ever taken on was at Pittsburgh Botanic Gardens.
Yeah.
And it was an Indian wedding, so very colorful, over the top, lots of big installments, a really big ceiling installment.
Beautiful.
And if they had not given me the time the day before, thankfully they were able to be a little bit flexible with the couple, and there wasn't an event the day before where I was able to come in, and I had to rent a lift. I learned how to operate a lift for that wedding,
Good
which
for
was
you.
really cool. The ceiling tent is like 24 feet high, so I couldn't do it with, just a regular ladder. So I had a lift come in, and that was like all happened the day before. I had to get the lift in. I got all the hardware set up that day as well, so when the actual day of came, all I had to do was come in with the product and start, assembling everything. So like it was so important that we had that day before to get that done, or else it would not have gotten done in the time frame the day of. So, whether it, I think that there just needs to be a little bit more flexibility with the venues.
I agree.
Especially when, there's these grand ideas involved in, what you want it to look like. I mean, it truly just takes time no matter how many people you have.
100%. It's so hard not to tangent on that, because like from my point of view and being a wedding planner, like, and just again, my style too, I think it is so important to be so heavy focused on the couple. So when venues sell the space 3 days in a row because their goal is to sell.
Exactly.
It is frustrating because sometimes these couples aren't even getting like rehearsal time. It's like, oh, you can't have a rehearsal on site. Sorry. I sold it.
I mean, even the day of, it'll be like, oh, we have a ceremony like from this time to this time, so you can't set up before. It's like, like I get it. To some point, like, it's a business, I understand, but also like how you said, it's becoming such a like impersonal experience with like, I feel specifically with the venues, that is so not what my brand, and so when, that happens, it really does like, I don't know, it just feels, it feels not good.
Uncomfy. I don't like it.
And it's hard because you don't want to like have to assert, because then you're like, well, the couple needs to pay more for it. And it's like, I don't want to have to make the couple pay more for me to have to like do this. And it's another hard line to have to walk.
I know. If I would ever open a venue, which honestly I don't think I would. I feel like there's more than enough in Pittsburgh. Jesus. I would probably honestly go and take one wedding a weekend and just I don't care. One flat price, you can have it for the whole weekend. I don't care at all, because I want you to have a good experience. I want you to be happy, and to be able to make those decisions like, okay, so they're charging me $8,000 just for a Saturday. If I want it for the whole weekend, it goes up to $10,000. Oh, well, I don't really need it for more, right? So let's just book it for Saturday to save money. And then your vision starts to unfold a little bit more, and I want this, and then you're like, oh my God,
And then but then they have, then they book it, and it's like, you can't even, you're stuck in that. So it is hard. And just like on the note of taking like as many, that's another thing that like, I don't know, there are florists out there that will literally take as many weddings as possible in a weekend and not think about it and just be like, okay, well, we'll hire the help, it'll be fine. But like truly, the most will take 3 in a weekend, which is a lot for us. But even those 3, I have hands on everything. I'm going to all 3 of those venues. I am making sure the people that I put in charge, but like it is very, very rare that we'll have 3. Like truly, I really do try to keep it to 1 a weekend or 1, a week, because I want to have a nice relationship. I want to be able to show up with the bridal bouquet or, the couple's flowers and, present it to them and see their face. And I want to be able to do all that. So that's something that's super important to me.
I agree. That's how I feel. It's just that personal part of it is really, really special. So, if there are, couples that maybe you're in the process of finding a venue, think about these things. These are questions that you should be asking. Like, when is the access allowed, or do you sell the space and all of that? Because if you do want really big, beautiful floral installs, which I want you to have them, like you need time beforehand.
And thankfully I have kind of, as you go on with the business, you run into things that you want to change or whatever with your questionnaire, and thankfully I have added that into my questionnaire, like what is the venue access time? Do we do we get the whole weekend? Do we get the day before? Because that limits what I can sell to you.
100%. Something that I've noticed more recently is a couple of my partial clients, or we'll just say it that way, day of or like less, basically. Yeah. So people that are booking florists that I am not having my hands on, which is, fine. I have had a couple couples have like a newer florist in the industry that I am not familiar with, or, someone was like, oh, this person is like a family friend, but so-and-so just took over the business. Okay. And in these scenarios, I have noticed pricing be probably 30 to 40% higher than people that I work with regularly. And I would love to know if you have any thoughts on that. Like, do you think that's just they don't know, they're naive because they're new? Is there any overhead they could be making up on? Or is it just like, let me see what I can do here?
I mean, my first thought is good for them, I guess. But like truly, like my true thoughts, like when I actually think about it is like, are you giving a product aligned with what you're selling it for? Yeah. And if you truly think that, then there shouldn't be questions, and there shouldn't be any hesitancy to give those prices. Now, I can only speak for myself. When I started in the industry, I was doing weddings for like $900, like, full service weddings for $900. My minimum now is $6,000. Yeah. So it's changed a lot. But the reason behind that is because I needed to build my portfolio to reflect, again, if I'm going to charge these prices, I need my work to reflect that. And I personally cannot feel good at the end of the day charging a price if that is not what I'm delivering to my clients. So if someone feels good doing that, that's great on them. But I mean, honestly, I talked about the labor that goes into it. Like, it truly is expensive. A lot of labor, that's the biggest cost of this. Like, you can get flowers from Trader Joe's. You can get flowers from Sam's Club and design them yourself, or have your, wedding party design them. But truly, to get the artistic design style, to get the professional knowledge, to get, just that reassurance that if something does happen, or, hey, it happens. I show up on a day and someone maybe doesn't like their bouquet, that we can pivot and change that and make it good. And, So absolutely. I truly would say, like, just looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, like, does the services that I provide reflect the cost. Yeah, absolutely. It was just so shocking to me, and I'm just like, this seems crazy, right? And it's hard because, like, again, like, I feel like personally with me, I was charging not a lot to start up, but I wanted to build my portfolio. I wanted to have nice photos. And then, of course, as I invested more into my business, and that's another thing too, is like, a lot of the profit that I'm making, I'm putting right back into my business because it truly is like my baby. So I am investing in, the best rentals. I'm investing in those new Lucid candles that are, gonna, again, it's really like, do you think, what you're giving is worth the value. No, I love that. I think that's good for newer people in the industry to hear. And again, you're hey, stick to your pricing, sure, but maybe let's do some market research a little bit too. I just wonder. And honestly, wonder what their markup is. If for some reason it's not it's gonna eventually show. It's gonna eventually show through, whether it's through the other vendors that you work with. Like having a good rapport with the other people in the industry, I feel like, is so important. And if you're not a good person, or you're cheating people out of something, I feel like that'll eventually show. And that's be authentic to yourself, babes. Like, that's all you gotta do. It'll show. We'll figure it out. No, I agree completely. So I agree, and I love that we started around the same time too, so we've like grown together, although we haven't, been like connected the whole time. No, I think we've seen the industry too, like, kind of shift. I think that's amazing. Yeah, absolutely. Kaitlyn, again, with Still City Florals, stillcityflorals.com. if you are looking for Pittsburgh's alt florist who just crushes the game, I'll do whatever. I will do themed florals. I will take a design, elevate it to whatever you want done. Love installations. I love working with authentic, fun couples.
Yeah, awesome.
I have a lot of fun things coming up. A little bit of a rebrand, kind of. But you guys will have to wait and see.
Awesome. I can't wait to see it.
Yep.
Kaitlyn, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. It was so fun.